All right, basic pentatonic scale. This is the mother tongue of most American rock styles. That could be blues, that could be funk, that could be a lot of jazz concepts, even wind up falling inside of this kind of pentatonic scale pattern. And it's kind of the first place you want to start. Most of the tricks that you're going to end up learning um, in this series of videos, they're going to be built off of this pentatonic scale more so than they're going to be informed by the major scale. And so let's get started with our two steps that we're going to need to build the pattern. So we've already learned about half steps and whole steps. A half step being moving up one fret, and a whole step moving up two. Now, a pentatonic scale doesn't actually use any half steps. What it uses is minor thirds, and that's when you move up 3 frets. And so, in order to build a pentatonic scale, we need to get to 5 individual notes. And so from our starting tone, we're going to be playing in the key of E. So we can play all of this on our open E string. We have starting note, in this case E, minor third up, whole step up, minor third up again, and then to close it out, you go up a whole step. So one more time, we have open, minor third up to whole step up again, minor third, and a whole step up. Now, E is a great key to learn the pentatonic scale in because these fret markers line up with every single note except for that middle one. Instead of going to the 9th fret, from the 7th fret here, what would typically be the 5th of the scale, we go up a minor third and that lands us on the 10th fret. So playing on the fret markers, except for imagining that 9th fret up to the 10th, you have a pentatonic scale right there. Now, with that knowledge, you can start building the pentatonic scale up and down the neck. You know, if we wanted to start on the E on our D string, that's going to be on the 2nd fret here. We'd go up a minor third, up a whole step, up a whole step, up a minor third, and up a whole step again. Keeps lining up with a lot of these here fret markers. It's one of the reasons why they're placed where they are on the guitar, is because a lot of keys end up using these notes quite a bit. And so you can build the pentatonic scale wherever you want to with that knowledge. But here's the thing. Guitarists really like playing in comfortable patterns. If we stay on one string, it kind of limits how fast we can go. It becomes very difficult to reliably play a flurry of notes, right? If we wanted to go, say, as I move my hand up, I have to snap it back into the correct position if I want to do that kind of thing. And that gets very complicated. But if I have all of my fingers in the same place in a position, all of a sudden flurries of notes become very easy. It's still something that you want to work up to, but it's a lot more mindless because I'm staying inside of a position that I've practiced over and over. And so that first pentatonic box, we're actually going to learn up on the 12th fret. Now, the reason I'm not showing it to you open is because open positions don't translate quite as well as these closed ones. So what we end up having is starting on our low E. We move up a minor third up to the 15th fret, and then we're going to jump over to the next string, 12th fret, up to the 14th fret. That's that whole step. This is the minor third. That's actually going to bring us to the 12th fret on the D string, and a whole step up. So there, we have the exact same pentatonic scale, but I don't actually need to move my hand position at all. So one more time, starting on these bottom 3 strings, we have 12, 15, 12, 14, and 12, 14 again. So that's the start of it, and that's a whole pentatonic scale that gets us all the way. And what I'm going to encourage you to do is to practice the pentatonic scale in smaller positions than the whole box shape. A lot of people would practice the whole thing top and down, but I want you to think about it in smaller chunks. And these octaves, where we go from E to E, or from root to root, is a great way to practice just getting comfortable with these notes. There's plenty of concepts that you can find just in those notes alone. I stole this 10th fret on the D very briefly, just one note outside of it. But anyhow, let's learn that next octave. So we've already learned 12, 15, 12, 14, 12, 14. And the next notes are going to be jumping over strings again, 12 to 14, jump strings again, 12, 15, and then 12. So our first octave starts on the 12th fret of the E string, and we go 12, 15, 12, 14, 12, 14. And then our next octave starts here on the 14th fret of the D string. And to get up to the next E, we're going to go 14 on the D string, 12, 14 on the G string, 12, 15 on the B string, and then 12 on the E string. Again, this is the high E string. So anything that we find in this lower octave, we can start mimicking a lot of the concepts and a lot of the rhythms that happen in that lower register in the upper register. So practice those individually from E to E here, and from E to E here. You can start giving yourself little challenges like going from G to G. So starting and ending on different notes here. We can go from A to A. And you're going to get a lot of really interesting sounds when you start doing that kind of thing. That's just A to A, and it feels really different than when I go from E to E. They feel different, and that's because the balance of the notes is different. When I'm playing from E to E, I'm going minor third, whole step, minor third, whole. But if I was going from A to A in this pattern, I'm actually starting with a whole step, then a minor third, then whole, minor third, whole. And because that pattern shifts, the feeling of playing between those notes is going to be a little bit different. The balance changes, the relationship of the notes changes. And so we want to practice that. We want to get that sound in our ears. What does it sound like to go from G to G? What does it sound like to go from D to D? A to A. G again. E to E. You're not stuck playing the whole pattern over and over and over again in the exact same order. We never want to train our hands to play the exact same thing ad infinitum, forever and ever and always. We want to get comfortable with different patterns. The last thing I'm going to show you today is going to be what a lot of people call the soloing box. We're repeating some notes here, but we're getting to a position on the guitar that feels really comfortable for our fingers. So usually we would make it onto the G string here on the 12th fret. And our next note would be the 14th fret G string. And then we have our 12th fret on the B string, which is a B. And we're actually going to use the 16th fret on the G string to grab that same note. It's the same note there, right? That's another B. And so I'm actually going to be in 15th position. Instead of being in 12, I'm going to be up here in 15 where my pointer finger takes care of the notes that are on the 15th fret, and my middle finger takes care of notes that are on the 16th fret. So the tip of the box here is on the 16th fret of the G string. The next note up is 15th fret of the B string, and then we're grabbing the 17th fret of the B string. That's the same as our E. And then we're going up to the 15th fret of our E string, and then the 17th fret of the E string. So when we want to have a strong resolution, we're still going to end on the E. We're going to end there on the 17th fret of the B string. That's going to give us that really strong minor pentatonic resolution. Now, how do we use the soloing box? There's a couple of ways that I want you to practice utilizing this. One is just playing inside of the box. Still an extra note up there on the top at the very end there. But you can play tons and tons of great concepts just sitting in there. You have all 5 notes of the pentatonic sitting right there, surrounding your root. But here's the other way that you want to think about it. This is an extension of the minor pentatonic. We're adding a couple of extra notes that don't sit inside this box. We're adding this 15th fret, which you can grab from that 12th fret position. And the really new one is that we're moving up to this 17th fret. So we're getting 1 extra note sitting there over on the top. But how do I get in and out of the box? The short answer is there's no right or wrong way. And I want you to practice getting into the box from all 3 strings. The box uses the G string, the B string, and the E string. And I want you to practice getting into the box from the G, the B, or the E string, respectively. Let's take a look at what that looks like. If I wanted to play from E up to A, the tip, the highest note of that box, the first thing I'm going to do is move on the G string. So we're going to go from 14th fret on the D string, 12 on the G, 14 on the G, move up to the box, 16th fret G string, 15B, 17B, 15E, 17E. So I moved up on that G string. That's the place where I actually moved into the box. You can move your way back down out that way. Now we're going to do the exact same thing, going from E up to A, but this time we're going to move on the B string. So we're going to slide up on the 2nd string as opposed to the 3rd. So we have 14, 12, 14, staying in this position, 12th fret B string, 15th fret B string, 17 B string, 15E, 17E again. And that's moving up on the B. The next exercise is just moving up on the E string. We stay in that position until we need to slide up to that note. 14, 12, 14, 12, 15, 12, 15, 17. So you might be wondering to yourself, why do I care? Why would I need to go in and out of this box in different kinds of ways? And really, the main reason is that articulation on the guitar is hard to replicate in different positions. If I want to bend into a note, I can't bend into this note from this position anywhere except for on the B string. Or slide into it. If I wanted to replicate that on the E string, I'd actually have to shift my hand downwards in order to slide in. But this way, I still know exactly where I am and what note I'm going from. So if I wanted to slide in, or if I wanted to bend in, or if I wanted to add hammer-ons and pull-offs, I need to be able to do that from a position, and I could learn that in a nice comfortable spot like the soloing box, or I could learn it down in a different spot over here. But the problem is, up here in the soloing box, my fingers are offset, and over here my fingers aren't. And it sounds different. You hear that? If you hear on the E string, it sounds thinner. So notes are going to feel different when they're placed on different strings. Your articulation options, being able to slide in, bend, and use hammer-ons and pull-offs, those options are going to change based on your position in the guitar. So getting in and out of those positions from different strings is going to allow us to do different things. So after you get comfortable moving from the different strings, I want you to try sliding into that position, sliding into the box. So you're going to slide on the G string. And then you're going to slide on the B. And then on the E. and they all feel different. So that is the basics of the pentatonic. As a quick recap, we have the formula, which is a minor third, a whole step, a minor third, and a whole step, which you can start using to sort of find your way around the neck. We have the box position, which in the first octave is, in the key of E at least, is 12, 15, 12, 14, 12, 14. The next octave starts on that 14th fret of the D string. We have 14, 12, 14, 12, 15, 12. So the whole position, 12, 15, 12, 14, 12, 14, 12, 14, 12, 15, 12. And then we have our solo box, which starts here on the 16th fret of the G string, 16, 15, 17, 15, 17. So mess around with that. Try starting and ending in 6-note patterns. And try moving in and out of that box from different sets of strings. Once you're comfortable with that, you can start really beginning to think about what notes you're playing and try to hear things while you're playing them. But first you have to be kind of articulate. We need to have our fingers know these patterns pretty well. So treat them as some exercises for about a week, and then you'll be ready for the next step. Thanks.